Kelly Smith. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
Sound like a little puppy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Drama, Just Movies, and we are back this week with another movie review. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned with all the content that we release on this channel each and every week in the world of TV and movies. My name is Cameron. Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
Oh my God. Phil, when does he start sparkling, mummy? Corwin.
Well, if you haven't guessed it by now, and you may actually not this time, we are here to review none other than Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Obviously, the new rendition, of the classic novel, that being Dracula by Bram Stoker. So, I mean, we might as well just get right into it. This
Yeah.
was and is one of the most highest anticipated movies of the year. It's kickstarting the year, which is an amazing way to go. Um, Hit me. What are your thoughts?
I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I'm a fan of like vampire films anyway. Um, and like I think we needed one like that again after the whole Twilight thing. We needed one that was absolutely disgusting. Uh, but also beautifully shot. So I was totally, and we're gonna get into like the specifics, but also the just the atmosphere of the whole thing, and a lot of things that hit me differently from like watching other, let's say, Dracula films. Um, yeah, so I'm totally into it, I think. What about you?
I saw when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I had heard a lot of the hype. I didn't really know what it was about. I had no idea that this movie was even coming. And I watched the trailer and I went, oh, this looks really good. And especially as a guy who's not a horror fan, usually. Obviously, this is a bit borderlining on horror, I would say, but it does have some horror elements. Um, this movie's fantastic. This movie's fantastic. It is, well, easily, in my opinion, the best movie of the year so far. Obviously, it's not very
Right.
far into the year, but it's fantastic. And I think, like, for us to just jump on immediately into it, like, for me personally, Cameron, like, what it was about this movie that, well, Cameron, there's a different surname there, that was all over this movie, and I'm not exactly complaining. But for me, from the moment I watched the trailer and then now the movie, obviously the magic word, lore. The lore of this movie is so interesting. It's so obviously it's taken after, the classic Dracula story. But I think the reason why I appreciated this take far more is because and we said this after the movie, it takes itself seriously.
Mhm.
I enjoy the idea when I'm watching a mystical or fantastical piece, the idea of even if this doesn't feel real, I still want you to make me believe that it is within the universe you've created, right? And I think, this to me, it took itself so seriously, but in the best way because it takes the law seriously. And that's what makes it so interesting. And I think it also makes it quite scary. Like, this is I nearly said masterpiece, but I think there is parts of this movie that are so masterfully done, from the cinematography to the performances to the different meanings and messages the movie may be trying to convey. Like, it is art, and I think that's the best thing that I can say. It's art, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But let's go into the nitty gritty. What was it specifically you liked about it?
So let's start with the atmosphere because that's kind of, I guess, on the same level as it felt real. For me, for example, this was the first time where um, I felt like at the beginning, for example, that Hutter being locked in this castle by Orlok, right? At the first time I felt that shit. he's an actual prisoner right now, and there's nothing he can do like to get out. Um, and this because I watched this scene again, like I looked a little bit of like researching the voice and where Orlok's voice came from and stuff. And one of the scenes was that scene where Orlok basically shuts him into the castle and he says, "You shall obey my uh something something."
Something.
Uh, but basically, yeah, you're going to stay here if I say so. Um, and yeah, the first time, just this atmosphere of this claustrophobia, um, of that, but also like how it was shot. Like I think I mentioned after we watched it, this scene of Hutter's arrival. Um, when he's standing at the crossroads and the carriage comes towards him, just like how it's shot, like how Hutter is at first just a silhouette, just
Mm,
how it plays with light and dark. And it all feels strangely real for such a like a
mm.
stylized vision, I think. You can feel the atmosphere of like just dread and fear. And I think that like carried the whole way through of like how real the emotion is, I think.
Yeah, now I agree, and I think that's the thing. Like, it's so dark, it's so visceral, but you feel like you're there, and I don't know how to explain this in a way that makes sense. But like you mentioned, for example, that scene where where Thomas is on at the crossroads, and the coach pulls up, and like it's just the way that this is shot. It makes it feel like you're there, and it's so dark, it's so visceral. Like the cinematography is the star of this
Mm.
movie. Okay, well, I'm absolutely so sorry if I'm butchering his name right now, but I see a Jarin Blashki. I do apologize if I am butchering the name there, but incredible, incredible. Like the cinematography for this movie, it's so it's rare that I think you go into a movie and the cinematography is so great that that's one of the leading reasons why you would want to go back and see it again or see scenes from the movie again, and that says a lot. Um, in terms of the themes that they're dealing with, whether it be desire and loss. Obviously, there's some ties to obviously Victorian era Britain there as well, Victorian era London. But just the way that like he does it with this cinematography, like even for example, these kind of silhouette almost shots where it's like Count Orlok, his hand is slowly creeping over the city, or and
Yeah, that one.
you know what I mean? Or towards one of the final scenes of the movie where Ellen is in her room and Count Orlok. This is when he comes to give her the warning, I believe, saying that she has 3 nights, and he
Mm.
like comes through the curtains and you're seeing his shadow creep up to the doorknob. Like it's just so great. Like you mentioned, for example, that when Thomas does find himself in the Count's castle, and there's that shot where Thomas accidentally cuts his finger with the knife and it starts bleeding. Then you immediately cut to a shot of just Dracula's eyes just opening so wide, where he's like, but it's so well done. The music, take over, take over. What you got for me?
No, I love it. It all fits very well together. I think just the cinematography, the story, the acting as well. Um, Segue time. I think we can talk about the acting. Um, I did like the cast. I really enjoyed the cast. Like they were all very stellar. The only one I like, I'm not too sure about this Lily Rose Depp at the beginning, only at the beginning. I think she grows into especially the manic parts. Uh, Felt at the beginning a little bit over the top for me. But that might be subjective. I can agree if somebody like says, "Oh no, I enjoyed that." So yeah, I would give him that. But everyone else, absolutely, yeah, the really good cast like Willem Dafoe, always, of course. Um, but like the top highlight is definitely Bill Skarsgård. Um, and before we get into him, maybe if you want to like just, you know, mention any of the other casts or like highlight any of the others.
I mean, let me just quickly mention something about Bill. As I said, I knew very little about this movie coming into it because it wasn't on my radar.
Hmm.
I'm not a horror guy. It just wasn't something that was on my radar. I had no idea that Bill Skarsgård was Count Orlok until after the movie when we had a chat. I had no idea. And this guy, I mean, wow, like this guy, insane performance, insane performance. I saw him speaking recently about, you know, the idea of playing Joker at some point in his career, or he also mentioned Bruce Wayne. And I mean, how this guy, like he's after this performance, you can easily see him as the years go by morphing into that actor that you always look at to go, that guy could play any role. That guy could play any kind of crazy, super out there
Yeah,
role that
crazy
you
out there.
could that you really could not see anyone else being able to pull off. Um, just incredible. I actually really did enjoy Lily Rose Depp quite a bit, actually. For many reasons, but focusing on the craft part. I did. I thought that she was really good. You know, you mentioned, for example, not being too keen on the manic kind of
At
parts
the
of her
beginning.
character. I actually think that those were the best parts of her performance. Actually, I did think that she did come across really scary. And one thing I did mention after we watched this movie is that I think that she has really expressive eyes.
Hmm.
It's a weird comment, but I think she does have really expressive eyes, and I think that it really works. I mean, William Dafoe, like William Dafoe, like come on, as von Franz, uh, incredible, just absolutely incredible. You mentioned obviously was it Simon McBurney as Knock?
Hmm.
Like I'm not even familiar that much with his work, but I thought that he was awesome. We spoke about this briefly after watching the movie. Obviously, Nicholas Hoult as Thomas. After we saw him recently in Juror Number Two. Now this, I'm very intrigued. This guy's a terrific actor, and I'm very intrigued to see how, as we mentioned once we watched this movie, that we're used to seeing him play these more vulnerable characters,
Hmm.
and to now see him in this role and see how tremendous he is, I'm now even more excited and more intrigued to see what we get of his Lex Luthor in James Gunn's Superman next summer. But we will get onto that. But ultimately, like those were the standouts for me in terms of performances.
Hmm. I want to go back to Bill, I guess, because just like what he does with that voice
Mm.
is absolutely incredible. We don't see a lot of his like full body and like how he moves. We see like little snippets of like hand movement or something like that. So it's harder to talk about that, I think, for me at least. Um, but like just how he like that voice and how um like how imposing it is, how strong it is, just like that timbre as well. Just like that. I saw this thing like afterwards researching it, that he did a lot of like throat singing and worked with like an opera singer, I think, as well, to come up with that voice. So that's pretty much all him. Like he said, they were doing like working with like where the microphone is placed as well, but there's no like, as far as he explained it, no like technical or like after what is it called?
Post doing some
Post
fiction.
post thing trickery. Yeah, there's no, as far as he explained it, there's no like post trickery or anything like that. It's all like done um as they were filming it. And just I don't know like if there was something in his voice that was just the frequency or something, but it was so mesmerizing, just that humming or growling, I guess, underneath it.
Oh.
Let's all do our Orlok growl. Um, wait, yes, that. But yeah, it was like very hypnotic, I think, and just that whole presence that he had, like every time he was on screen, it was like drawn in, and which is perfect for that character, I think. So yeah, but big props for him. And just like you, I knew it was him, but if I hadn't known, I would be like, when does Bill Skarsgård show up? Um,
Yeah.
that it's yeah, amazing transformation as well.
Yeah, I mean, so let's go on to some of the, some of our main critiques on this movie before we wrap up here. I'm gonna go right along with it. This movie's too long. It's too
Yeah,
long. It is on paper a 2 hour and 12 minute movie that to me I easily could have thought was a 2 minute, 2 hour, excuse me, 40 minute movie.
Mm.
Like it's too long. It's too. There is times where you do think, what? Like there was times where at least I did think to myself, okay, this is quite a long movie. And 2 hours I think does kind of qualify as a long movie, but we've seen many of 2 hour movies that breeze by, and I felt that this should have and could have been shorter. I think that there's a lot of scenes here that you could have cut, in all fairness, as great as they were, but I think that it would have ultimately helped with the runtime. And that does lead to my second thing, where it's like, and this isn't necessarily a critique, but you'll see how it links to that critique of the runtime. This, for me, is a movie that does require a second watch, because I think that there is a
Yeah.
lot to decipher. There's a lot that's being, there's a lot of themes that's being toyed with. There's a lot of messages that's being displayed. But the idea of going and sitting down for a second time watching this movie, though I'm very excited to, that length will probably feel like a killer, even more so the second time round than it did the first. And so that is a little bit disappointing. But that is kind of my main critique. Like I was really drawn in by this. It's just the length, and I think that if you trimmed some off, we could have been in better territory. What say you?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. That would be really my only critique. Like it felt a bit long in places, specifically I think in the middle or around the middle.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know what exactly it was. It's hard to say, I think, on the first watch or after the first watch. But yeah, I think it could have been trimmed a little bit, for me at least. Yeah.
Final question before we go to our icy review score. What is the meaning of this movie?
Ah!
Is it one? Is it multiple?
I think like Dracula, it's very much I think about like uh sex. Herr. Just like the kind of animalistic want of someone, um, of like Orlok wanting Ellen and Ellen kind of wanting Orlok as well, and just like physically, literally just wanting to suck her blood, and her, I guess, wanting to have sex with him. But it's that, but also this kind of, I think going back to the original, foreigner comes over to our places, and brings nothing but death, which is very modern. Yeah. So I think there's a couple of themes there. Definitely is kind of there's a lot of like conservative ideas of like sex is bad, and like again this idea of like um sex kills you, or like the parallelism of sucking blood and how erotic it is, and um that uh as a bad thing, and like yes.
Yeah.
But also because this is the thing where I wasn't too sure about, because all those were in the original as well, and I wonder if I missed like what the modern meaning is, or if it like doesn't have a modern meaning as such, and just goes, here's what it meant back then, and here's what it means. Um, oh, here's what it still means for me, or something. Just with updated visuals or something, or if there is a meaning that is a bit more modern for us now. If there is, I don't know what it is.
I mean, look, I echo that sentiment. Like, admittedly, I'm still trying to decipher specifically what Robert Edgar specifically is trying to say.
Hmm.
If you had to put it into a sentence, like, what is this movie about? What is the meaning of this movie? Obviously, as you mentioned, I think the thing that really comes to mind at the moment is this element of desire, this need to want something that is not necessarily good for you. Um, but giving into that desire, but potentially what giving in the consequences of what that can be, but also the consequences of not doing it at all, and it being on two sides of the same coin. But I'm very intrigued to continue finding out more. I mean, this is what it's about. I mean, it's always fun when you have a movie when you get to put on your detective hat and you want to know more, and they did a great job with that. Anything
It
else you want to
does.
add before we give our
It's
review?
definitely you want to know more. It's not like a film where you go, I don't know what it meant and I don't care. It's definitely like, there's something there and I want to figure out what it is. Um, just before we wrap up, I'd love to shout out his name is David White. He's the prosthetic makeup effects designer. And he basically did the look of Orlok with his team, obviously. But I loved the look of Orlok, especially like I've mentioned, how we got a lot of like sparkly, good-looking vampires recently, and like how vampires became kind of the for teens. Um, but here's suddenly like a vampire that looks like you don't want to be that. He looks very rotten. He looks very like you,
Mm.
especially at the end when he's dead and lies on top of Oliver, on top of Ellen.
One of
Um,
the best shots of the movie, by the way.
yeah, absolutely. Like the yeah. And when you see it like from above and um, but yeah, you can see all the marks and like how like wounded he is. And I
Mm,
almost felt like sorry for him because this is not a guy who, like Dracula from Coppola's version, who's like, growing younger and more handsome and like just thriving. Um, this as well, like what I realized for the first time, I think, is how much of a shut-in he is, how much of a prisoner he is in his own country. Which is also why I think he moves over to Germany. Because he says like all these people they believe in vampires. I don't think he's been out of that castle for ages. Because these people will kill him if they find out what he looks like. And so there was a little bit of pity for him as well in there, I think, for me. Just from like how broken he looks, how damaged. Um, like, yeah.
what a way to leave off. Well, that will do it for our review of Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Obviously, we have our IC review system score on this channel. So, straight up, how many ICs will you be giving this movie out of 10?
I want to say 9 out of 10. I do want to take one off just for the length. But everything else was just wonderful, and I want to watch this again, which is a good indicator. So 9 out of 10 ICs.
And listen, man, you read my mind. I'm also going with 9 ICs out of 10. It is the best movie of the year so far. What a great rate to start. And hopefully we can keep these nines up. But I have a feeling that will be very hard. However, that has been our review of Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Please, if you like this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, share, drop down in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts of the movie and also what you thought the meaning of the movie is. Once again, my name is Cameron Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
Sound like a little puppy begging for food. Um, I'm Phil. When does he start sparkling, mummy? Corwin.
Well, that's it. That will do us once again for our review today, guys. Thank you very much for checking out this video, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Bye.